Hello and
Hello.
welcome, Chloe.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Woohoo, exciting.
Very exciting.
So first of all, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm just ready to
Awesome.
flow and go on this journey together.
Let's
Yeah.
flow. Love
Yeah.
it. So I think for our listeners, a great starting point would be, 14 years. Wow. How did you start your business? And tell us a bit about your journey.
It literally started by getting in trouble for wearing makeup every day at a private school. That's literally how it
Hello,
started.
I've been there too.
Yeah, I would get in so much trouble every single day.
Wow.
And it was actually my year 11 business studies teacher that said, why don't you go and study makeup? You obviously like it, and that way you won't get in trouble because you're wearing it as a part of your studies.
That's incredible.
So I actually did that in year 11. That's how long it's been. And then when I was 19, that's when I actually decided to make it a business. But I did not know what I was getting myself into.
Wow.
Yeah.
And going back to that, did you leave school
No.
to study business, but you did it as
Yeah.
another layer?
They just
Wow.
added it actually as a vet course. It was the first year that added the makeup certificate as a vet program
Okay, that's
within
awesome.
their school.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
And do you feel like in that business study course, you gained tools to start a business? Or
no, it was the makeup
Yeah.
course.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah.
So certificate 2 in makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And that was at Media Makeup Academy in the city. And
Yeah.
I just go down every Friday. I had no idea what I was doing, but it meant I wasn't at school once a week.
Wow.
And I learnt everything you need to know, obviously, to be a makeup artist, but nothing about like being a business owner. So I think that's the difference is like once you've learnt your trade, you go out into the world to start your own business, but that's the part you don't know anything about.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So where was that point where you thought, okay, I love makeup, I love being a makeup artist, but I think I want to be a business, have my own world and
Yeah.
be a business owner?
It was actually after I just got into nutrition and dietetics at Flinders, which was a really exceptionally hard ATAR. And I didn't really want to go to uni while I was at school. But fast forward, I had a few people who kind of said, I don't think you'll get anywhere in life without a degree. And so I did what's
love
called,
those.
I did what the foundation course, which is an entryway apart from just doing the exam. And you go to uni for a year, you do uni subjects, and then you get an ATAR. And I thought, I won't get into nutrition. It's an ATAR of 97.4, and I'm not an A grade student. But I got in.
Hello, amazing.
And then
Wow.
I kind of like showed those people that had said that. I was like, look, I got in. Doesn't mean I'm going.
Cool.
So then I
Cool.
was sitting around kind of trying different careers after school. And my boyfriend at the time actually quit his job to work for himself and moved in with my family to start the business. And I said, but I want to do the same. Like, I'm not enjoying anything else I'm trying. I'm bored and I can't see it being satisfying. So he was like, why don't you work for yourself? I was like, what am I going to do? And he said, didn't you study makeup? I was like, yeah. He's like, don't you love that? I was like, yeah.
There you go.
He's like, quit your job. And I did. I walked into work the next day, quit my job. And I had no idea, but that's literally when it started at 19.
I think that is an amazing lesson. Something that I talk about a lot is tapping into the resources that you have around you. So often I hear, oh, I want to do my own thing. I want to start a business, but I don't know what to do. And I think if we just had a look around us and maybe maybe the current industry that we're in, or like yourself, you're a makeup artist, that could just be the stepping stone to start something. It's incredible how people are running full-time businesses out of recipe development, but it's just tapping into that little resource that you have around you.
Absolutely.
Which is like an amazing starting point.
Yeah, it was wild.
Wow. And when you began, going into a sort of like marketing aspect, did you start posting on social media or did you launch a website? What were your first sort of
Well, this is
moves?
back in 2010. So the only social media was Facebook. So that felt like the right place to start. just having a page where I could put like a portfolio. And I would say this was the biggest blessing from this particular person that I dated. His business was website development and all the
Cool.
SEO side of
Handy.
things. So he made me a website and really kind of helped me become familiar with a side of the world that I'd never really been exposed to. And I really learnt from listening to him. And to say it was slow and steady is an understatement. Like, my business initially was probably more of a hobby. Like, let's be honest, if we looked at it properly, it was a hobby that I was treating like a business because I wanted it to be one.
Love that though.
Yeah, so it was very, very slow, but he did help me in the website creation. And I really feel like that set me apart from like a professionalism point of view right from the get-go. Like, I was taking myself seriously until I built up enough experience to go out there a little bit more like, hey, this is what I do.
Yeah.
So the marketing side of it is not something I've ever really like been familiar with or exposed to apart from what he taught me. But then fast forward when Instagram became a bit more of like the
big.
place you go for business owners, I kind of realized very quickly what I needed to do. And so in a nutshell, that really took place during COVID when we were shut down. I did a business social media marketing kind of intensive course just to like utilize that lockdown to study and grow, and then implemented that, and I saw a huge shift there. That's the first time I implemented marketing. And the second was when I went to TAFE in 2019 and I did a diploma in business followed by an advanced diploma in marketing and comms.
It's amazing. And fast forward now, so in terms of where you generate clients, does a lot come from Instagram?
I would
Google?
say,
Yep.
yeah, of course. I'm not sure on the ratio. However, I believe that because I built my business so organically and so slowly back in the day, that most of my clientele would be word of mouth. But Instagram's definitely a platform that new clients come in from. And when
Beautiful.
when I get new clients, I'll say to them, so how did you come across me? I always make sure I ask that. It's really good, like kind of
Absolutely
free
to know.
feedback.
Yeah. And especially in like an aesthetics-based business, you know, even if you started that lead from a word of mouth resource, they're going to go somewhere to look at your content, and your content's so amazing. And all you really have to do is post these beautiful photos of before and after makeup. And it's like, that's that second part of the funnel to then contacting you.
Yeah.
So it's like not just Instagram is everything, but it is obviously such a strong part in building that funnel.
I've noticed it's people's Google now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for
big
visual
believer in that.
suppliers. So especially in weddings, it's the place where people go because it's all visual.
Yeah. And talking about that with weddings, so, you know, in generating content, I think a huge opportunity that's come up that I've seen in the last 10 years, especially for makeup artists, florists, is that people will always go and get professional photos done by a photographer at their wedding, and you can usually tap into that content. Whereas, you know, originally it would be so hard to go and get all your own content and make it look professionally. So there's so many avenues now of how you can get this beautiful content, which, is really, really cool.
It's definitely one of my passions is the photo and video side of it. Like, I definitely have a passion for when I'm at weddings creating my own content and not just waiting and relying on that professional
Cool.
footage to come through. I'm always making little reels and little videos, and I have like a strong desire for that side of my business, which I think really helps.
Absolutely.
And I was just saying with Mia Connor when I was speaking to her last week, you have to wear so many hats in order to be successful in business now. Even if you start out as a makeup artist, you have to become so many things to kind of meet the standards now.
And it's not a thing to be scared of in business, because as you grow as a business, you can always delegate. But if you've had that original understanding of what things what goes into things. Then when you do go and work with a photographer, you're able to use a language that they understand. So it's not anything really to be scared of.
That's a great point, actually, because as much as delegation is important and you can't do everything, the more connection you have to each kind of area of your business, the more you'll know what aligns and what doesn't when you're hiring the people and delegating. Because if your personal brand is strong and your aesthetic is, you know, already determined, you then can determine the things that they're going to create for you. Whereas if you don't really have your hands in it all, they're going to create content that might not necessarily align with your business aesthetic, style, branding. It's just not going to hit. So that's actually a great point, is like you need to have basic understanding and
Doesn't have to
involvement.
be intensive, but there was a great story about the owner of Gymshark. I think this is in the UK, he'd reached a certain point and they'd had a restructure or something, and he actually spent a couple of months, I think, going back to all his stores and working everyone's job just so he could understand. And what that gave him was like the full customer journey. And he knew then after that what it would take to take the company to the next level, which I think is an incredible story. And I think, there's always a season for these things. But talking about how you mentioned how you shoot your own reels, what do you have like a process that you use when you go to shoot? Like, do you have like a bit of an idea before you head to a wedding? Okay, this is kind of like a song that I'm going to use, or
No,
you just take it. I love that. Wow.
I'm super intuitive, and like things
That's
just come
cool.
to me, and that's when I tend to make my best work. If I overthink something or overplan it, it tends to not really translate well for me. So
that.
I tend to focus more on the fact that I'm there for someone's wedding day. That's my my focus has to be that.
Yeah.
And then within that space, what feels right, I'll create my own content where appropriate and where it feels right. Obviously, me taking footage is not their most important part of their wedding day.
Perfect.
So I try and be
Yeah.
the fly on the wall and capture things organically that happen without them almost noticing sometimes. Or I'll get my assistant that helps me with my weddings to take the footage of me fixing something or doing her lipstick and putting her veil in. It's just like capturing what's already happening rather than adding in extra.
I love that. I think I love that, like having a feel for when the right time is.
Yeah.
So then would you take lots of clips and then edit them sort of later on and then choose your music?
Yeah,
that
I
kind of
definitely
thing?
never
Yeah.
plan my music. It's just what feels right, because every job has a different feel. And so I try and match the music to the content, because every
Cool.
wedding has a different vibe.
Love that.
Some
And
are
you wouldn't
more-
know that until
You're there.
you've attended the wedding. And I think that's important because everyone has their own way of doing TikTok, Instagram reels. So don't feel like if someone's really great at transitions, you have to use that style. It's just finding about what's going to work for you and how you're going to be able to be consistent on the platform.
And depending on what your goal is with your business and your Instagram, especially, and TikTok, not that I use that, but I guess it's the same platform in the respect of visual, I would say that you have to be careful not to get caught up too much in trends. Yes, they're important and they have a place and they'll reach a larger have more engagement, reach a larger audience. But you have to go back again to your business values, what you're trying to achieve, and sometimes noise doesn't convert to
100%.
paying clients. So I think in a service-based industry where a bride is, it's a really emotional journey, it's the most important day of her life, it's important for me to capture and translate that in my work, even if it necessarily doesn't feel like it's trending or it's a transition that's going crazy or it's going to reach 100,000 people. I think it's like remembering what you're here for. It's for the paying client, not always just to reach people.
Definitely. I love that. Just always going back to your why, which we talk about a lot at the agency.
Yeah.
Something that our listeners might be interested in hearing is what does like a day or a week in the life look like for you? I know that might be different now, but I think people might find that interesting in sort of like a time management aspect.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is a great question. I would say, in short, it's very much dependent on the time of year. But a typical wedding season week is Mondays and Tuesdays getting back to brides, getting back to all the admin, all of the structure and like tangible parts of a business. I only used to do that on Mondays. But it's so important for me to have a grip on my week and go into the week, which starts Wednesday for me, really prepared. And I have the Mondays and Tuesdays then too for meetings, things like this, myself, gym, health. And so Wednesday I'm 100% refueled and recharged because in my line of work, I have to give you everything I've got. You deserve it. You're a paying client. It's a very intimate profession. And so if my cup's empty, you'll feel that. So, yeah, I like to start my week refueled. Wednesday to Friday, I'm at the studio, which is where I do my brows, my lash lifts, and those complementary services to my existing makeup and hair. And then on the weekends, that's predominantly weddings. But at this time of year, it shifts a little because the wedding season dries up. So I'm more working on like the mentorship that I'm doing with a mentor, my study, the behind the scenes more, a lot more in studio work, makeup lessons, things that like wedding trials on a Saturday that can't happen in wedding season. But to go to the time management part of your question, no one is telling you what to do, when to do it when you work for yourself. You have to keep yourself in check. And so that's something I've really had to streamline and like perfect over the years in order to be efficient, productive and get results, because you will not get them. And the more you put into your business, obviously, the more you get out. So it's just having a real clear, like, week for yourself where you know where you give, aka to my client, and when you refuel, aka the Mondays and Tuesdays.
Yeah,
you
I
can't
love that.
do 7 days a week pouring into clients.
Fantastic. And I think that just showcases a lot of self-control and discipline, which I think as a business owner you really need
And I've never
to be
had
successful.
It's taken
Knowing
me
when to say yes and knowing when to say no, which can
Discipline.
sometimes be a bit of a learning process. But I love how you're sharing how you're resourceful over the winter months. I think we think when we're quiet, we freak out. Really great opportunity. Hey, work on some back end things that you might not have touched for a while. We definitely do at the agency. It's okay, what can we work on that's been on our, after list? And then you go when you're busier, hey, thank God we had that time where we got to work on these things. So I really love that. I think that's really helpful. And flowing into, I guess, just sharing anything that you've experienced that's hard in business and how you've, what tools you've used to get through it.
Yeah, I would say that hardship is inevitable when you work for yourself. You would know that. The two things that I think are always there that you'll always have to overcome, one's more tangible than the other. The first is the mindset. That's the biggest hardship in business, no matter what anyone says. Your business can only grow as much as you grow personally, and you have to be behind your business in order for it to actually manifest, because it takes 100% of your self-belief, no one else's. So the biggest hardship for me is the internal dialogue, the procrastination or self-sabotage or imposter syndrome, whatever word you want to assign to that mentality. That will always be 9 times out of 10 your biggest hardship in working for yourself. So that's why it's so important to obviously recognize that and then work through it with a mentor or whatever aligns for you in unpacking your story and then redefining your story so that you can be the business owner that you dream of being. That's the first. The more tangible is the Australian tax system. end of financial year right now. Believe me, that is a great hardship that I think is ugly and people don't like talking about. But it's like, again, going back to you start your career out as your trade, whatever that may be, and then you have to learn to be a business owner. I started as a makeup artist. I'm now a business owner that does makeup. And I've had to learn that over a 14-year window. And with that, learn the outgoings of a business, what's required. And my biggest tip around overcoming that hardship is to have like separate accounts where each week a certain portion of your revenue is delegated to each account so that come those expenses and outgoings and taxes and GST, it's already there because it's really easy to not account for that. And then you get stuck and overwhelmed. And it's like one of the things I would say deters incredible artists and creators and people that are trying to work for themselves because they're not prepared for it. No one's told them. They have no idea what to do when that happens. And so that would be a really kind of good takeaway is to look at your revenue and portion it out. That goes to super, that goes to GST, that goes to rent, that goes to product. And that will really help you come those expenses being due.
It's actually a beast that you can control.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it's something in business that, you know, definitely there's been, you know, stories of people getting huge surprising tax bills. We've all been there. But it is actually something that you can control because you can't control bad clients. You can't control things, but, you know, it's something that as you're suggesting tools. I listened to like an amazing sermon actually recently about asking for help. And I think that's so crucial flowing on from what you've just said and confronting problems head on. But if just say managing money or financing is not your strength and it's this thing that you just keep, you know, dusting under the rug, it's not going to go away. So in business, it's actually about confronting things head on, but asking people for help. If you know someone that's really good, they're a great accountant, ask for help, invest in that person because they're going to support your business. You're going to be way better off for it. I know there's things in business I'm not good at. I'm not, you know, starting off, did everything myself. However, now I'm not going to slave away doing something that is just not my thing, and I think you're way better off for it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's how you grow too as a business. So that's some awesome tips there. Then how do you think, you know, how important do you think it is to be real with people on social media, like how we're being real now and, you know, how you were talking about before sharing content of weddings and things like that. I think sometimes people definitely could potentially take that too far and overshare on social media. How important do you think it is to be real about things on, you know, your page to a certain point?
From a personal life perspective or how to run a business perspective?
I think both.
Okay. I've noticed that when I tap into my personal life to some capacity, or I just like hold the camera up and go like face and talk about something, there's a lot more connection and there's a lot more like relatability, and the client or the audience see the person behind it all and they really like that, and that's what they are investing in. So as much as the wedding reels and the content's fantastic, I think there is definitely a need, especially with the AI direction we're going in, where loss of personal connection will happen. That's something that clients are looking for. And I would probably say that's across the board of any industry. People want to know the person behind the business and they want to connect with you because at the end of the day, they're going to spend time with you, especially in a service-based industry. I would say even in a product-based industry, your client and your audience, your customer, is more likely to buy your product if they know the business owner's face, story, a little bit about their personality, rather than just seeing a product and going, I don't know anything about it.
I 100% agree. And I think it's about finding that balance because, you know, I've come across accounts where people are like, oh, we want to get our business to the next level, blah, blah, blah. But then you look at the comment section and the post, and it's generally family and friends. So it's always great to start somewhere, build that up, but then also, you know, if you want to reach new communities and new clients, it's about sort of readjusting that strategy.
And
always
it's
having
really
that personal feel.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I guess I don't really think too much about it when I post something personal. And then a client, new or existing, will come in and be like, so how are you going with this? The thing that I referred to a week ago in my story. And I'll be like, oh, people do listen and do watch. And it's a starting point of conversation and connection, and it builds rapport and I guess that personalism that the client's craving.
In terms of scaling a business, how do you think brands such as your business or any sort of service-based brands could scale, could still keep that personal feel, but just say they have new staff coming in? How do you think they would be able to achieve that?
Still getting the personal touch. I would probably do little snippets. I've seen it a few times where they go behind the scenes in, let's get to know this person. Let's get to know our marketing director. Let's get to know our IT, and make it fun and make like a series out of it. It's something that you can refer back to and repurpose as well. As you add more staff, you just do a new video about like 5 things you should know about our marketing director.
Yeah, that's cool.
And just make it light and fun and informative. And that's something that people can refer back to as well. And then you can repurpose that content on your website under like the staff tab instead of just a blanket photo and synopsis about the person. How cool would it be to have like that little video as the way you meet the team? Something
That's really, really cool. And, you know, it might be that you as the core business owner are still posting that stuff on social media, but perhaps you're not the person that's going to be applying the makeup, but how you hire your staff and how you create a culture within your business is like a flow-on effect to what you're posting on social media.
Yeah.
Because I think that's, you know, it's a bit of an awkward conversation, but it's important to have that conversation because I think business owners sometimes feel scared to step away from their business because they're worried everything's going to cave in or I can't go on holiday because it won't have the same vibe. I definitely think it's achievable, but it needs to have touch points everywhere.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Cool. That's a big can of worms there. We could talk about that one for
I guess like I have
40 minutes on
been
its own.
Someone in my industry that's delved into that. A lot of people in my industry are like, Chloe, I can't even manage my own calendar. How are you managing your teams as well? And I've like listened to a few people say similar things like, I could never do that. I could never delegate. I could never rely on another makeup artist to show up for a job with my client. That is something I went into quite early and I did it slowly again and organically. I added one assistant. I fine-tuned that to see what works and what doesn't. Then I added another when it felt right and when I grew. And now I have a rotation of 5 to 6, depending on their availability and my needs for my client. But I've learnt that let's go to a quote, people are your greatest asset and your biggest weakness in business, but they're necessary in order to scale. So the reason I can look after so many brides is because I have that option of bringing an assistant that works alongside me. And not only that, I can be at one wedding and one of my girls can be at a separate wedding at a different location. I don't feel like I need to micromanage. I have full faith in them because I've trained them. I psychoanalyze people when I'm hiring, so I take in little things that really equal whether I'll work well with this person, whether they fit the Chloe Eloise brand, and if they're going to treat our clientele the same as I would, the same rapport, the same service. So once those things are ticked, I really then take a step back. I have full faith in your abilities. If we need to fine-tune something, we'll fine-tune it. You want some training, we'll give you some training. This is how I treat clients. And I'll bring them to jobs with me before I just give them their own jobs so they can watch and mirror how I work too. So there are ways of getting around
Love that.
teams and like scaling and handing over the like control of it, you know, and you don't want anyone else to ruin your business. There are ways they can mirror you, they can come work with you and see how you do it, because then they'll grow into being a reflection of your business.
I love that. Some real golden nuggets there. What would your 3 tips be that you could give someone starting out? So they've just registered a business and they're probably feeling really overwhelmed with marketing.
With marketing specifically, because they want to get their brand out there, right? They want to get
They're seeing
business.
all this noise.
Yeah.
It's, okay, you know, I think we all do this. We think we've got to look like X, Y, Z to be successful. To do that, it feels very overwhelming. Where do I start? What would be 3 tips that you would give someone?
Okay. I've got them. The first is get in touch with people in your industry that have been doing it for X amount of years already, because they're going to love helping you. Like, they're going to love answering your questions about how they did it. So go to other people who are doing the exact same thing or are where you want to get to and say, like, hey, how did you get around this obstacle? What did you do when you first started? What was the best thing that helped your business grow? Like, go and ask the people that are already doing the things, that are walking the walk.
That's great.
It's just, it makes
a bit
so
of a
much sense.
no-brainer.
And it
Yeah.
costs nothing.
Yeah.
You're like, I need to learn from you. Like,
Yeah.
people love.
And the right people too.
Yeah.
I think you'll always get those people that probably are too busy or
Yeah.
you know, pick that person that, you know, genuinely would give you some
Yeah.
really authentic advice.
Yeah, so that's tip number 1 would be to go to people already doing it. The second would be to get a mentor. That's something in this industry that's been lacking, and that's kind of where I might be
You
going.
come in. Love that.
So I would say, like, even from the get-go, the mentoring doesn't have to be business mentoring. It can be personal, like working on your, like I touched on, the self-belief, the core belief system, the mindset. That's going to be huge, because you're going to need a lot of confidence going into a saturated market and in a noisy social media world. You're going to have to be like, no, I've got this no matter what. And then the third thing would be to start working with other industry experts. So if you're a makeup artist, I'd be reaching out to agencies, photographers and other creators to create content, to get experience, to try different looks, to see how people work together. And that's then content that you'll put out. So the work will come, the paying clients will come, but you need to have work to put out there first. You can't just like open a business, open an Instagram, post one photo and expect instant gratification. It's a process, it's long, and if you want it to work, you have to be in it for the long ride, like the long haul. It's an overnight industry, but it's not overnight success. So it's just respecting the kind of world we're in, which is things happen quick, Instagram moves quickly, but knowing that you're going to have to do it for a while before you're seen, respected, and hired.
I love that.
Yeah, that's 3.
That is incredible.
I think that's 3.
That
Yeah.
was 3 amazing, very meaty answers.
Because I think the reason why those
Yeah.
tips are there is because I would have probably loved someone telling me that
To
when
tell
I
you that.
started.
I particularly like the one of reaching out to people in your industry, which I think genuinely I probably would have felt really scared to do initially. I definitely reached out to people, but I don't feel like they were the right people. There was a mixture. But much like, you know, the people that told you to go to uni, I had people saying, why would a social media business work? Or, you know, that seems crazy. So I think it's important to find those right people as well. I love that. And just to finish off, what impact do you aim to achieve within your business? So, you know, what is your why for doing all of this? And maybe you can share a bit about your new venture in the process.
The reason I do what I do is because as a girl and as a woman, we are not really ever taking care of ourselves. As a woman, biologically, we take care of everyone around us. So coming into my chair is a time of self-care, and that might be the only time in the last 6 months that person's taken for themselves to have an hour in your chair. It's another day in the office for you, but it's huge for them. The reason I do what I do is to give back in the smallest or biggest way, whether I realise it or not, in making someone feel good, in giving them an hour to themselves with no chaos, no responsibilities. I kind of lock them into my chair. You're with me now, so let's go on this ride together. And the result is hopefully that they love their hair, their makeup, their brows, whatever the things are. So that time together I never, ever lose sight of. And after, nearly 15 years of doing this, I imagine that's something that could drop off, is like remembering the role you play, especially in weddings. People say, like, I hate weddings, like, they're so stressful, stuff doing that, and I love it. I've never, ever, ever stopped loving weddings. I get to be there in someone's most important day of their life. I get to set the tone for the day because I'm usually the first supplier there. How beautiful is that?
Amazing.
And if I do my job right, the whole day will be amazing. If you come in even just for your makeup because you're attending a wedding, if I do my job right, you're going to feel and radiate so much confidence and enjoy. That's going to be one of the best days ever for you because you feel good. You've just had this really positive experience with me, and even though you look great, you feel better. Like, you can't take that away. You can see it in someone's face when they feel good. That's why I do what I do. And bleeding that client thing into the education space, which I've now gone into, I want to give that same to other people in my industry, no matter where they're at in their own careers as makeup artists, hairstylists, beauticians, skin therapists. I want to provide that support and that helping hand in the issues they're experiencing in their business, whether they are their mind or where to now. I just want to fill that gap and help them to become better business owners, better creators, better artists, so they can give to the world the way that I try to give.
Amazing. That's really raw and beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much, Chloe. I honestly think that was an incredible session. And I think, for a young girl or guy starting out, wanting to, head into a service-based industry, there are some absolute amazing nuggets there.
Yeah, I don't want to stop talking.
No, and where do we find you if listeners want to follow you?
Yeah, so I definitely only utilize Instagram. There's a reason for that, but Chloe Eloise is my main account. It's actually the URL. I don't know if you find this smart. I made my Instagram URL my website. So it's chloeeloise.com.au, because then you know exactly what my website is. And then my education page is Chloe Eloise Education. So that's a brand new page. And that's where I'm transitioning this next stage of my business. I don't want the two merging on the same account. They've got very different purposes. So that's why I made a new account. I don't really utilize Facebook, but I think Instagram and Facebook have
It's your jam.
Yeah, it kind of replicates everything, but I'm not on there. And my website is obviously still kind
Chloe
of where
Eloise.
people go as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so, so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you
Loved
for
it.
being amazing.
Thank you.